came back from winter break and had seen Cy Twombly in Houston, and I get my ideas from looking at the art of world-class, important artists. And so Cy Twombly made me think I need to do something loose with kids. So we made marks in water-based graphite on paper and whitewashed over it with a white primer and added a little bit of colorant, and I think it was super liberating. How did you feel about that?
Personally, I really liked it. I felt like you could portray different things that, like, I guess, what's it called? Still life drawing, and like even drawing from life, like you can't portray the same feeling always. But when we were just using like colors and graphite, and like looking at textures mostly, I kind of show more of like what's internally going on with people versus like how it looks. Yeah,
absolutely. The mark making is emotional. You can feel it. It's exciting. It's liberating. Could be frightening, because kids weren't really, but they were ready for it.
Yeah.
By Christmas, you see, by January they were ready for it.
If I did that,
yes, we need that freedom. And you come back from winter break and you feel so relaxed, different than when you arrive at school in August.
Yeah.
So I think that was successful. Currently, we're working with still life. And I decided, because I had seen Loving Vincent, the film that's animated with 160,000 paintings.
That's insane. That movie's incredible.
It's really good. Have we seen the whole thing in your class yet?
Yes, we have.
Okay, good.
I'm not sure we watched the ending, but we watched most of it. I know that.
Just seeing the paintings, the process, knowing about him, and how much emotional content is in his painting. I thought, I've been waiting for spring to come so we could go outside and do landscape painting. So we started with a still life because it was raining so much that I decided I'm gonna buy some flowers, a bunch of flowers, and set up a cool still life. And that worked out well. It was a good initiation. We drew with watercolor pencils and added water.
And like the challenge was drawing it using Vincent van Gogh's style, and that's what it kind of added a twist to it.
Absolutely.
Which is difficult to do a different artist style.
It's hard to do a different artist style, and his style is super loose, but highly controlled at the same time. So it's deliberate marks, a million different variations of color, which most kids can't see, let alone make. But I always hope that if they get started or they see it for the first time or the second time maybe, that their own skill set will grow and they'll loosen up.
That makes sense.
Because high school kids are pretty tight.
Yeah.
They want it to be very perfect and really controlled, and they want it to look real and all of that. So when I teach, don't tell, but this is a secret, that I try to teach them fun ways of making art that will kind of obliterate that mindset of keeping things tight all the time.
That makes sense.
The way I teach is kind of exploding their need to keep it tight and make everything look recognizable. They want people to recognize things in their artwork, and it's more fun not to worry about that.
That's a whole nother like world of art.
Yes, and that's why Cy Twombly, even Vincent van Gogh, they're both working in abstract ways, very different. But
and they weren't accepted at the time.
Neither one of them.
And now they're like highly, what's the word? Not recognized.
They're revered.
Like revered, that's the word.
They are revered. So you're super bright for recognizing that, and that's why I love having seniors in art class, because you do recognize, and that is taking art to a different level. That's been completely unspoken.
Yeah.
I haven't mentioned that one time, but that's important to me. I like picking people that didn't get the acceptance when they were alive. Most really well-known artists were doing something ahead of their time, so Frida Kahlo, people didn't know what to do with these people. Cy Twombly, Vincent van Gogh, they were kind of shunned by, Vincent was totally shunned by people.
Are there any upcoming projects that you're very excited for?
For me, one project always leads to the next. I know that this spring I want to address screen printing again. We did some in the fall, but it was just doing it rather than making our own. And I know a young guy who I met through a student, Nick Osella, who's graduated, lives in New York, and is doing art now. His friend is still in Austin, and is a really cool guy. And screen printing is such a cool process, but I really want him to come and work with y'all. I always want to address a Native American work, and I've kind of started doing it already since my visit to Acoma Pueblo, but I want to impart the importance of the Native American experience through my classes, because I don't think kids will ever learn about it unless I do.
That's true.
And it's something that I have a connection that I can share with students, so their perspective broadens. Teaching kids about a different way of being is one of my most important professional goals. How do we incorporate another way of being into our own, so that we're aware that not everyone is like ourselves?
And we can learn from other people's experiences and learn to be more accepting, so that they don't have to repeat like the negative experiences.
Absolutely. 100,000% of that. And there's so much in our culture right now that tells us that unless you're a particular way, that you're less than. And I am dedicated to ensuring that kids understand that all ways of being are relevant, significant, and valuable.
I think that's a very good goal. I think you do a good job of teaching that, and making kids feel like it doesn't matter what you are, like we're all here making art and we're having like a good time in a community.
Every child is lifted up and made significant. Like your way is significant, and Alejandra's way is significant, and every different experience is valuable.
Yes. Excellent. The next question is, I'm trying to decide which one to ask you. What would you say to students thinking about taking art next year?
Oh, I hope they will do it. I think kids are afraid sometimes because they feel like they don't have the skill set, or there's pressure from friends to do something that's cooler, or clearly I won't get kids who are really good at singing. I won't get kids who really want to act. I have to sell it a little bit, but I've been here long enough, and Mrs. Reed and I both work really hard to make the art studio an inviting and interesting and exciting place to be. It's a little bit of a place for rebels and outsiders, just because of that's the way art always is like that. But at St. Andrews, we don't really have rebellious. There's not really rebellious kids. No. Everyone is basically very homogenous as far as sophisticated. Kids are sophisticated here. They know about art. They They know how to live well. They so from those are the important factors in teaching art. It's really about keeping it relevant. So we like to, make something and then take it into the digital media lab and playing with it some more, an image, or doing something architectural, or doing something with tools that you would never experience maybe beyond high school.
Yeah.
Because we have these tools here.
That's true. We have a lot of resources in this art studio. And that's one of the first things I noticed when I toured here was like the art studio, and I liked that students' work was up on the walls. It wasn't just like, oh, I wish I could paint like that. It's like what kids were actually doing.
Yeah.
And it was all very impressive. And I liked how many tools and mediums you worked with here. And that's what made me really want to come to St. Andrews in the first place.
Good. There's so many that I forget. I mean, there's hundreds of media. One of my favorite things is printmaking, though. I love teaching printmaking because you can make many images and they can be varied. And so I hope we do some monoprinting as well as screen printing in the spring.
What's monoprinting?
It would be taking, for instance, a plexiglass plate, drawing on it with a water-based media like crayons or water-based crayons, soaking paper, blotting it, putting it on top of that plate, and running it through the press.
Gotcha.
It pulls the crayon drawing off the plate. Now that just seems like, why would I make a drawing on a piece of paper? Why wouldn't I just do it straight away? But you get a little bit different feeling. You can also be painterly with those water-based crayons. You can add water. You can let it be a little looser.
I feel like it's more satisfying too.
Yeah.
That process seems really nice versus just drawing on a piece of paper.
Right. Using that, $800 to $5,000 press is a cool thing, and not every high school kid is going to have that experience.
That's very true.
Not even every college has printmaking program. UT has a good printmaking program, but there's so many good schools.
Is that a major? Or is it
Sadly,
not?
maybe not.
Maybe it's just
In
like
the old
part of the
days,
art.
yes, but
That'd be cool.
people don't, in colleges and universities, don't often, unless you go to art school, they don't often offer you can't get an undergraduate degree in clay at UT anymore because it doesn't sell.
Yeah.
You can't make a living doing it, which is not true. You have to be really good at it, but you can do it.
But that's possible, especially if the program's smaller. You
Correct.
learn more.
Yeah.
They should keep it.
And if you go, absolutely, I agree.
I would say they should have finger painting programs.
Well, painting, period.
Yeah.
You can get a painting degree. You can get a graphic arts degree. I don't know all of the degree programs, but they have gotten rid of some of them since I've been teaching here, and it seems backwards to me. I don't think they're forward thinking. They have a very small photography program now, whereas in the 1990s it was alive and kicking. And photography is rich. It is the basis for graphic design.
Yeah. It also is needed in a lot of different ways. You can get hired for a lot of different jobs as a photographer. It means a million different things.
Absolutely.
So I feel like they should probably
take photographs, upload them to Photoshop, drop text in there. But starting with that handmade tool and then going into graphic design is the deal.
That's where it's at.
Yeah, and that's how you, as an artist, specifically, are good. You have a lot of handmade art skill that you'll be able to apply to digital media later.
I'm still working on my art style.
Yeah.
Some days it's really good. Some days it's I don't know what I just made. It looks terrible.
We're all like that. We're all absolutely like that. I've done 5 landscape paintings recently outside with kids using a palette knife, which is another thing we've been doing, and they all look different. The first one I made, I'm really proud of it. Some of the others, not so much. But I don't tell the kids that.
But it's still practice either way.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we have someone's landscape with a palette knife.
Yep.
In progress.
Yep.
A still life based on Van Gogh's technique.
Mm-hmm.
And then is that still life also based on... Okay, 2
Yes.
still lifes based on Van Gogh.
Right.
And then a copy of a replication of a Van Gogh painting. I feel like copy sounds bad. Replication. Because it adds someone, like an individual's flair.
Yeah.
That's what a replication is. Copy is just printing something.
You're right. Well, the landscape is really has a huge amount of texture in the paint.
Mm-hmm.
It's by Chastity. She's a beginning artist. She was frustrated by her painting, but this is a child that never gives up.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably a person that doesn't see herself initially as an artist, but maybe by the end of the year I'll get there with her.
I really like this one.
This is a great painting.
Yeah.
So that what I'm saying to you is that even though I have some work to do with her because she doesn't see herself as an artist yet, but the work is there.
Yeah.
She doesn't give up until it feels right. And so what you and I see is a huge amount of color, but not overworked. It's still got little pops of color in there that look fresh and exciting, but then there's a lot of blending going on too. Obviously a landscape, really nice marks in the sky that are on the angle. It's not all horizontal marks. They kind of go, when we look at the sky, on a diagonal, those lines. So difference between dark blue and clouds, a lot of motion, the air. It's very atmospheric, and that's what we're looking for. And by taking the brush away and applying paint only with like essentially a stick, the kids don't worry about making something look real. They make
get
it
to be loose and free again.
Loose and free,
Like
and make
Twombly.
it feel. Yes. So Twombly's coming out in here. Vincent van Gogh is coming out in here, even though the child is moving paint around in a very personal way, essentially. And then you'll see the color palette, and she has a beautiful color palette, and it's being allowed to dry, and potentially we'll frame the color palette along with the painting.
I think that would be a really interesting addition.
The second image that you mentioned is Annabelle's watercolor. She has a lot of skill. She is a second-year student. She cares a lot about art. She practices on her own. She has good seeing skill. So these are all things that you are recognizing in her work. She even has a really individual signature. This is a beautiful painting. She's seeing transparency through glass, and then she's taking what she remembers from Starry Night, which is a famous painting by Vincent, and she's creating a background from memory, and that's really lovely. So she's making something very original that's been inspired by Vincent.
It's very lovely.
Isn't it nice? Soft blues, yellows. So that's really teaching her about the color palette that Vincent taught us all about. Another painting by a really skilled artist is Raquel. She drew the most beautiful tulips. The flowers are beautiful. The greens, the leaves are beautiful. The wateriness of the vase. I can't say enough good about this painting. I love it. And then the last painting that you mentioned is by Mila Edwards. It's a lovely, she's looking closely. It's a study from Vincent van Gogh of boats on water. She's making tiny, tiny marks. He was influenced early on by pointillism, and that's where he started breaking his marks up so you could see them individually, and it's super alive.
Yeah.
And she's excited to make this image, and she wants to keep going every day, even though it's super tedious and super challenging to make so many marks. This was a child who didn't believe in their own ability at the beginning of last year, and now look at how far she's come. It's a beautiful, it's just a beautiful image. She's getting a wateriness here, and the boats sit well on the top of the water. It's just great. She's worried about dropping a red brush right on her painting.
I actually didn't notice that.
So yeah, and it's not a big deal. It doesn't really even show up.
Yeah.
So we have to work on it just a little bit there.
I think the lesson to be learned from all this is that everyone should come out to the art studios, even if they're not taking art. And if you need help, you can ask Mr. McCoy or Miss Reed, and they're always willing to help.
You bet.